Welcome to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast, your go-to resource for personal development and coaching. I'm your host, Leticia Ringe, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the podcast. Today on the podcast, we're answering the question, where do I start on my next personal development and coaching journey? So today's episode is for everyone listening or watching the podcast, because when we move forward on our next personal development or coaching journey, there are a number of different ways we can approach what we choose to focus our attention on. And it's really important that we do choose a particular approach to our personal development so that it is effective. So in today's episode, I'm going to simplify the choices and give you three, so that as you're listening to the three different ways you can approach your personal development, all you need to do is tune in to what your body, your mind, and your intuition is telling you, what you're feeling pulled towards, and you can choose that particular pathway for your next personal development and coaching journey. So this episode is particularly important for yourself or for your clients, for those of you who are coaches or work within the personal development industry, because often when we think about how we next want to up-level, transform, grow, or change something in our lives, we can lead to feeling confused and overwhelmed. That's because we either have too many pathways and possibilities, or we're so overwhelmed that we can't think of anything at all. And so we just feel completely blank. Now, over here, we're not talking about personal development for the sake of personal development. We're talking about meaningful and aligned personal development to you. This means that you're really going on this journey of improving something in your life in order not necessarily to attain the thing that you're wanting to create, but instead because of the journey and what you'll learn about yourself through that journey. It's really about revealing another layer to yourself, getting to know yourself more intimately. And while things like challenges and newness are great, and they definitely help us to get to know ourselves more intimately, the real purpose is the self-exploration that we get through personal development. So please know that we're talking about that personal development rather than personal development for the sake of personal development, which is where you're seeking external changes because you're trying to validate yourself and fix yourself and make yourself better, when really personal development is about getting to know yourself more deeply, which is allowing you to form a deeper level of self-acceptance. And we will all spend our lifetimes getting to know ourselves, and that's a beautiful thing. We're not meant to know every single aspect and layer of ourselves right now. This is what our life journey is all about, and we want to enjoy that journey and that process. And then on top of that, the other people who come into our life along the way, they're also all going through this same journey. So we get to see glimpses of each other and our understandings of ourselves and each other at particular times, knowing that that level of self-acceptance, that level of self-expression will continue to change and evolve as we continue to move throughout our lives. And that's a beautiful thing. So usually when a client comes to me and they want a personal development, transformation, up-level change in some way, they will either know exactly what it is that they want to work on, or they'll be saying, I know something needs to change, but I'm just not sure what. And often this can happen when you're feeling maybe apathetic about your life, bored, unfulfilled, unsatisfied. And so you know something needs to change, but you haven't exactly pinpointed what it is. In other cases, you might know, oh, it's this particular goal, or it's this particular aspect or area of my life that I really need to work upon. And sometimes that is the area of the life where the change or the microscope is needed. But in other occasions, it's actually not even about the change that you think it is. It's actually about a different goal or a different area. And personal development and coaching will reveal that along the way. So at the end of the day, all paths will lead to Rome. However, you don't want to start looking at all the different areas of your life all at once, working on them all, trying to form new habits, new ways of thinking, and make all these changes and transformation all at once, because you're going to get totally overwhelmed and you're very unlikely to stick to the process. If you choose a pathway, knowing that any pathway you choose out of the three I'm going to share with you will get you ultimately to what is most important in your life right now. That allows you to start the process and be committed to the process, which will allow you to reveal something about yourself that needs to be revealed right now. So in saying all of that, take the stress off and listen to the next 3 ways to create effective personal development and transformation in your life and your next coaching journey. And remember just to notice which approach you notice yourself moving towards or feeling pulled towards, and that's where you can start your next personal development and coaching journey. This is also great because it will give everybody following along on the podcast something to focus on as you're listening to the lessons and teachings that are coming on the podcast, because implementation is the most important part of this process. So in every podcast episode, I'm ending it giving you some sort of exercise or reflection or coaching question to ponder so that you can then go away and have your own experience and your own understanding of what I'm teaching. This is where it will get to be successful for you. If you don't do that, then you're just consuming what I'm teaching without actually learning anything, because the way we learn is through experience. So you've got to go out and interact with the material I'm giving you so that you can have that learning and that growth and that experience. Today's episode will help you get some focus so that you can take this focus and approach and pathway through the podcast as we move forward. Okay, so what are the 3 effective ways to approach your personal development and coaching journey? The first is for those of you when you're thinking, hey, I know something in my life needs to change, but I'm not sure what, or I'm just feeling like I have changed so much as a person that my life as it stands right now just feels like I'm living a life that is no longer aligned for me. It feels like I'm going through maybe an identity crisis, or I just don't know anymore what I want or who I am. And usually you're asking yourself some of these bigger questions, like what is a fulfilling life? What is a satisfying life? And it's very life focused. It's very all consuming. That's great because you can simplify your questions by going on what I call a life makeover. Now, this can sound really overwhelming, like we're going to be making over every aspect of your life all at once. But the way that I look at a life makeover is as follows. This is where we're taking a top view, a macro look at yourself and your life. We're really diving into all of the questions we explored in the episode where we talked about what is a beautiful life. We spoke about what is a successful, fulfilling, and satisfying life. Now, we were looking at the 7 different areas of your life and how to create alignment in those areas. We were looking at your lifestyle, and we were also looking at your purpose and potential. So in a life makeover, we're really taking a top view in order to look at who you are now as a person, what you're wanting in your life right now from a top level view, rather than going into each area and actually working on the change. So this is a different way to approach your personal development, and it is a way that we will need to approach our personal development every so often. For some people, it'll be every few years or even every 5 to 10 years. For other people, you'll want to do it more regularly, like every year. Personally, for me, I have built into my life an annual review where I'm really looking at my life through this top level lens, through a life makeover lens. And that's through my end of year process. Many of you who have been following me for years have heard me talk about this because I let everybody know every single year that I'm going through my end of year process. It is my favorite thing to do. I actually have packaged up that end of year process into a workbook, which I'll make sure I put in the show notes to this episode because some of you had asked me to provide that to you. And that is my way of really checking in and looking at the top view of my whole life once a year. Because personal development and coaching is my thing, I'm often asking myself these really big questions. And so for me, an annual process to really help me check in and look at my life in this top view way really serves me. Now, some years more than others, or after very significant changes in my life, life, I will go into a life makeover in an even deeper way. So you might have had a huge change in your life. Maybe you've had children, maybe your children have moved out, maybe you've ended a relationship, maybe you've started a relationship, maybe you've ended a career, maybe you've started a career, maybe you've moved into a new permanent house, maybe you've had some other big change in your life. That is a great time to be doing a life makeover. But the best indicator that you're ready for a life makeover is when you're asking yourself that question, I know something in my life needs to change, but I'm just not sure what. This is where we would get to the bottom of what that thing is, and we start through doing a life makeover and a 360 view of your life. But again, we're not going in and changing any aspect or particular thing in your life yet. We're going on a journey to look at your life as a whole. And so we do it in a deep way from this top level view, but we're not getting overwhelmed trying to change everything all at once. And this is a really important process that we'll definitely talk more about on the podcast. Okay, the second approach to your personal development and coaching journey is when you know that a particular area of your life needs some focus. It could be that because you have a desire to go on that journey of looking at a particular area of your life. It can also be because you know that it's feeling out of alignment, or it's feeling challenging, or it's feeling just something needs to change here. I'm not sure what, but something needs to change with this area of my life. And what I'm talking about here is really looking at the 7 different areas of your life and then knowing that one of them needs some attention. And a beautiful exercise that I love doing with my clients is to have a look at the 7 areas of your life and rate each area out of 10, as in 1 being this is just completely out of alignment, I'm not thriving at all, and 10 being fully aligned, fully thriving, love it. So you look at the 7 different areas of your life, and without thinking, you rate out of 10 where you're at right now in each area. Now, this is not an exercise to beat yourself up with whatever you put down. This is a self-awareness exercise. This is where you get to see what needs attention. So whichever area you rate the lowest, or whichever areas you rate the lowest, that might be the area that you want to work upon. But I also want to remind you that you don't need to choose an area where you're feeling the least aligned. You can also choose an area where you feel the most aligned. A lot of people have had the incorrect message that we only develop or change or grow or transform when we're not loving a particular aspect of our life, but that's not true. If you continue your personal development when you feel like you're thriving, and you remember the goal is to explore another layer of yourself. If you do that while you're thriving, then you start being able to ask yourself even more powerful and deep questions. When you're struggling, there's a problem and there's something that you want to change. There's this urgency. And so that makes the experience of personal development have a different flavor to the one where you're already feeling like you're thriving and you just know that you want to continue thriving and you know that you will keep changing. And so you want to keep looking into yourself and your life and focusing on getting to know yourself, and then therefore changing and growing from that really self-fulfilled place, which is a beautiful journey as well. So when you know a particular area of your life needs some attention because you either desire it or because it's something that is feeling out of alignment, this would be the best path for you. You focus on this area. Now, this is different to the last way that I'm going to teach you, and I'm going to explore the last way first, tell you what it is, and then let you know how these two are different and why they're different and why you would choose this approach versus the last one in case that's something that you're struggling with. So that's the second way. It's when you're looking at a whole area in your life. The third way is when you have a specific outcome or goal or desire that you want to focus upon. So for instance, you might be wanting to look at the area of your life which is all about your career, your service, and your contribution to the world. And perhaps the way that you serve the world is through a job or it's through a business. And there's a particular goal in your business or your job that you really want to focus on. So maybe it's that I want to hit a certain income goal, or I want to get promoted, or I want to become a better leader. or I want to get a particular dream project that I've been wanting to do, or stretch myself in some way. Maybe I want to write a book. Maybe I want to start an association to support my team at work. Whatever it is, you have this specific outcome, this specific goal that you want to work towards creating. So when you know what that specific outcome is, that's great. You know that this is something that really excites me. I know it's going to be a challenge. There's going to need to be change. And I want to go on that journey to create this particular outcome. And also because of who I'm going to discover, what I'm going to discover about myself along the way. So that's different to the second way that you can choose, which is to focus on the whole area itself. So if you're focusing on the whole area itself, you might be looking at the whole area of work, service, and contribution. And so you're looking at that as a whole, and maybe you have a business and a job, or maybe there are other ways that you serve the world outside of the way that you earn your primary income. Or maybe you want to actually, it's only a business that you have or only a job, and you're actually wanting to look at like completely different options. How else could I earn a living, and how could I make just generally my work life more aligned? That's you potentially looking at that whole area of your life. And so with a specific goal, you're going to be going very deep with a very specific outcome and purpose at the end of that. When you're looking at the area, you're taking somewhere between a macro level top view of your whole life. You're now applying that to the particular area. And when you're working on the specific goal, you're taking more of a micro approach where you're looking at this is the specific aspect of that particular area. So see how it's just getting more and more focused as we go along. Now, it does not matter which method you choose, which way you want to approach your next personal development journey. You will move through all of these three throughout your life, where you'll be working on a specific goal or working on a specific area or doing a life makeover, and all of them have a very intentional purpose, and they also have a different way of approaching that specific outcome that you want. So that's how we don't feel overwhelmed. Otherwise, you might look at the life makeover or even the area and think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to make all of these changes. But actually, the purpose of the life makeover, as well as the area up level, is to take that more macro approach where you're asking yourself those bigger and deeper questions, and it's less about getting into the day-to-day. These are the things we're changing right now to get this specific outcome. That comes later. Now, we can also start with a life makeover and move to an area up level or a specific goal, because that might be revealed through the life makeover. Also, when you're doing a specific goal approach, you might reveal that actually what I need is an area up level or a life makeover. Equally, when you're doing an area up level, you might reveal that you need to do a life makeover or a specific goal instead. And that is all okay. All paths will lead to Rome. And that's the power of coaching and personal development. So, as it stands today, those are the three areas. I want you to notice, either for yourself or your client, if it's a client, you'll ask them, which one feels the most, do you feel the most drawn to right now? Do you notice yourself leaning in or something pulling you towards one of those particular approaches? And if you're still feeling confused about which one to start with, then simply take a moment, ask your inner voice, which means you're going to tune into within yourself. You're going to consider each three options for a moment, and then you're going to breathe out, and you're going to notice which one your intuition tells you. If that still is problematic for you, what you can do is visualize each option one at a time and notice how your body responds. So notice which one you move in towards. Or maybe there's one that makes you feel just really icky, and it's because of that ickiness you decide, that's the one that I want to choose to move forward. Now remember, all paths lead to Rome, so it really doesn't matter which one you choose. The most important piece is to choose one. So today, that's your homework. Go away and feel into each of the three pathways, and then make a decision. Give yourself a time limit, like 15 minutes. And then for our next episode, you'll know exactly what you're focusing on to transform and elevate as you move forward. All right, my friends, I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast, your go-to resource for personal development and coaching. To deepen your learning and practice, make sure you're subscribed to receive our community newsletter. This is a weekly newsletter sent to you every Friday to support your personal development. Subscribe at leticiaringe.com/newsletter. And if you haven't yet left a 5-star review for the podcast, we ask that you please do that now so that this podcast can reach other listeners who also want to join us in creating a life that is beautiful.